Thank you, Jade, and thank you everyone for attending today. So, yes, I'm Amber. I run a company called Mindible, and we've partnered with RTC today to offer this amazing workshop for you lovely ladies in tech with the aim of making AI easier at work and at home. So, I'll tell you a little bit more about me. So, I specialize in AI and business automation. We teach small and medium sized companies how they can automate with the use of AI and automation tools. I co founded this company with my business partner. I'm certified in AI for business from the Wharton University of Pennsylvania. And I've also got a CPD accreditation for business and entrepreneurship coaching. And I deliver lots of workshops like these for startups, universities, business communities, and things like that. So, what are we going to be learning today? Well, first of all, I'm going to be introducing you to AI, to the basic concepts of AI, what it is, and how it actually all works. Then we're going to be looking at ChatGPT and figuring out how you can get the best responses, how you can improve your input to optimize your output. Then we'll be looking at AI for your personal as well as your career growth. And we'll be looking at optimizing your CVs for applicant tracking systems and generating AI CVs. And then I'll allow for any Q&As at the end. So please leave questions as we go if you want to, and I'll be happy to answer at the end. All right. So, what actually is artificial intelligence? Well, artificial intelligence is the ability of computers to complete human like tasks with human like understanding. This includes things like recognizing patterns, making decisions, and solving problems. It's essentially teaching computers to think and learn on its own. And we've been using this type of AI for decades now. There's some terms we should be aware of. So there's this concept of weak AI versus artificial general intelligence. So weak artificial intelligence is the idea that AI is really good at one specific task. For example, if there's an AI system that can play chess, it may be able to beat the best chess player in the world. It may be able to beat the best grandmaster in the world. But if you wanted it to do something else, like help you come up with recipes for dinner, it's not going to be super great at that. So it's really good at one specific thing. So it's not really matching the intelligence of a human because we're multi skilled and multifaceted, whereas AI is only specialized in one sort of skill. Now, there is this term which is artificial general intelligence. And this is the idea that AI is really good at a wide variety of tasks, meaning it matches up to the intelligence of a human. And currently, this is just a theory, it's not something that's yet been achieved. But with this, revolution of generative AI, we've seen that AI has now become a lot more creative, which is a lot more similar to human patterns and human behavior. So we are inching closer day by day to that artificial general intelligence. So let's look a little bit deeper into the difference between the traditional AI systems and generative AI. So, traditional AI systems, like I've said, has been used for decades now, and it's basically when the computers are given very specific instructions and told, if this happens, then you do this. They're following a specific set of rules and they have these defined algorithms. We hear of algorithms all the time with our social media. This is like a rule-based system that AI is using to make decisions, okay? So if you think of a fraud detection system, if you have a number of suspicious transactions in a suspicious location for a suspicious amount, then the AI system is taught that it should block the card. It's recognizing that pattern of the suspicious transactions to block the card that's taking action to solve the problem of a fraud taking place. Now, recently, in the past couple of years, we've seen this huge boom of generative AI, which is where the machines are basically using past data to create entirely new never before seen content, and they improve over time as they're given more information. So they can almost like have a memory, and it removes the need for this explicit rule-based programming systems. And this is much more advanced and a much more capable version of artificial intelligence. And it's definitely changed the way that we live and work in the world today. So I've broken down generative AI into four main sections. We have text generation, image generation, video generation, and audio generation. So text generation is probably the most widely known and widely used form of artificial intelligence, mainly in the form of LLMs. So LLMs stand for language learning models. It's just another name for the text generation models that we use, like ChatGPT, like Google Gemini, and Claude. And these are very popular types of generative AI systems. There's also image generation. So we're able to generate images based off of text. So you can tell it, I want to create a picture of Snoop Dogg holding a dog, right? Something creative. Or you could create something for your work or social media. These usually are like cartoon looking images, but can look quite real depending on whichever AI system you use to generate the image. And these are fun to experiment with. There's also video generation. So video generation is arguably the least advanced version of AI right now. So OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, have a video generation system in beta testing called Sora. There's also a platform called Runway, which are working on creating AI generated videos. The most advanced version of video generation we have currently is AI avatars. So if you use a platform called HeyGen, you can create an AI avatar with an AI voice, and you can create an AI script to create a video of someone talking, and it looks like the person is obviously filmed this video, but they haven't. There's still kind of like micro things that you notice that indicate that this is not human, but it's getting more and more advanced every day. And one of the really interesting things you can do is you can create an avatar of yourself. You can create a clone of your voice, and you can generate a script to make a video that looks like you and sounds like you, but you never filmed that. And this has lots of potential uses, like you can imagine with like YouTube videos or training videos, educational videos. However, there is also this dangerous side that people can create videos of you that you didn't say, you didn't actually film those videos. And we've seen the dangers of this with, deep fakes. If you've heard of deep fakes before, they've been used widely, especially in politics, to create videos of people and, create words and create language that they've never said before. And it can definitely mislead people. So it's good to be aware of this type of AI and the potential use cases. But you can imagine also the good use cases in like film and special effects and gaming and virtual reality. Companies spend millions and millions of pounds in production costs. And with generative AI and the potential for video generation, there's the possibility that those costs could dramatically reduce. So something to be aware of. And then lastly, audio generation. So I already touched on the fact that you can, synthesize your speech, you can clone your voice, you can clone other people's voice. You can also create music or sound effects. So you could tell it, I want a song that sounds like this. I want it to be upbeat. I want it to be 30 beats per minute. I'm creating it for a corporate video. You can kind of give it the indication using text, and then it can create audio that matches what you've asked for. And this is quite fun and interesting to do. And, it's very difficult if you've ever created a video and you're trying to find audio to go behind the video. Sometimes, you're not getting exactly what you want. So this can be a good way to solve that problem. Okay, moving on. So, using AI in your everyday life. So, we're going to start off with some quick wins. So, you're probably already using AI in your life for things like emails and documents. So you're not having to write everything from scratch. This is super useful for anyone, but especially like project managers or team leads. If you're managing large amounts of tasks where you're having to type regularly, you can definitely be using AI to improve your productivity and reduce the amount of time you're spending making notes. Also, using it for time management. So, if you have a crazy schedule and lots of things to do, you find it difficult to try to organize your time, you can be using AI to break, lots of tasks down into easy to-do lists, and you can help it can help you to schedule those things into, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what do I need to be doing day by day in order to manage my time better? And then you can be using AI for definitely creativity and content. So if you're making social media posts or any type of marketing, for your job, you can definitely be using AI there. And with the image and video generation, it's good to experiment with that to see what type of creative images you can make for your social media. And then you could be using AI in your coding and your tech as well. So it can definitely help you for things like debugging. You can also use the GitHub Copilot to help you generate basic code, test cases, and complete functions as you type. So there's lots of different functions for AI in your daily life. I'm going to be going a little bit deeper today on OpenAI. So OpenAI, I mentioned previously, are the creators of the tool ChatGPT. They also created DALL-E, which is an image generation model, and they're working on a video generation model called Sora. So most people have probably used ChatGPT already. However, in order to maximize the quality of the content you're producing, there's a few tips that I'm going to be giving you today. So I've created some steps in order to improve your responses. Now, the quality of the responses is directly proportional to the quality of your input. So I would start off with giving it a role. We're going to go through each of these steps in further detail. I'm just going to go through a quick overview now. So give it a role. This is helping it to understand exactly what you're wanting, the tone that you're expecting, and the type of knowledge you want it to specialize in. Then it will move on to an action. I want you to tell it exactly what you want it to do. Most people just give the action. They say, I want you to do this, okay, without giving all of the other steps. So you give it a role, and then you give it an action, and then you give it context. This is where you give it further information. You give it the who, what, when, where, and how. You tell it what your target audience is, what you are, why you're trying to write this, and any further information that would help it to understand what you're creating, why you're creating it. And then you can give examples. So if you want it to sound more like you, what you can do is you can give it examples of your own text. You could also give it examples of other people's text. If you see, articles, emails, documents that you think are written really well, and you would like to try to imitate that in a way, then you can input that as an example. You can upload it in text format, but you can also upload it as a PDF document, and it will be able to read that document for you. Then you can give structure and limitations. So you need to be super clear in what you want the output to be, how you want the output to be formatted. So do you want it to be in paragraphs? Do you want it to be in bullet points? Do you want it to be an article? Do you want it to be a newsletter? I'm going to take you back to GCSE English, where you think about what is the format, and you need to give clear instructions of how you want it to be formatted. You also want to give it limitations. So you want to tell it what you're not looking for. So, hey, you're creating a social media post, but I don't want 10,000 emojis. Do not put emojis, or do not put more than 2 emojis. Only include 4 hashtags. So tell it what you want and tell it what you don't want. And then after you get the response, then it's very important that you give it feedback. Don't just copy and paste whatever it's given. It's very important that you read through, because AI does actually produce what we call hallucinations or false information at times. So it's very important that you review the information that you're giving, and then you ask it for iterations if you see any improvements or any things that you want to change. In England, we speak British English, but ChatGPT speaks in American English. So you may want to tell it, hey, please, can you change this to British English? And this will give it a more human touch. These kind of dead giveaways can make it very obvious that you're using AI, and then it kind of loses its power in a sense. If people notice that you're using AI, then you kind of lose the connection with, excuse me, with whoever you're talking to. And you can give structure and limitations as well after you get the response. If you notice it's doing something that you don't like, then you can give it that feedback with the structure and limitations. So let's go in a little bit more depth on each one of these steps. So firstly, you want to give it a role. When you're creating the role, you want to think, who would be like the perfect person to help me with this task? So imagine you wanted an assistant to help you in your daily work life. Here's the type of role I would create for you. So I'd say, hey, you're a supportive and knowledgeable tech savvy assistant who helps women in tech manage work life balance by offering productivity tips, automating daily tasks, and simplifying complex information. Notice I gave a characteristic. I said you're supportive and you're knowledgeable. This gives an indication of the type of tone of voice that I want it to respond with. And then I'm giving it the specific role, which is you're a tech savvy assistant. So obviously, if you're working in tech, you want it to be tech savvy. And this is going to act as an assistant to support you in your daily life. You could also give a role of an actual person. You want to use someone that's well known on the internet, because that's where ChatGPT is going to be extracting data from whatever's online. So I chose Sheryl Sandberg, who is the COO of Meta. So she's obviously a woman working in a high position in tech. So this is also another good option. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, what type of information you're trying to extract, you're going to change this role every single time. So, okay, we know what type of role we want to give. Next, moving on to the action. So there's two types of actions that I would recommend depending on the task. So if you're looking for like a simple task, you want quick results, you want it to be very focused and specific, I'd recommend a single action. Okay, this is like a professional but friendly Slack message to update your team on a project delay and suggest next steps. That's a very simple thing, so I'll give a single action. You may also want something more complex. So if you're creating a project or a campaign, or you're trying to do something for your team, then you may want to do a multi-step action. This is where you're breaking it down step by step, step one, step two, and so on, to give a more comprehensive response. So depending on what type of output you want to achieve, you should vary between single action and multi-step. Okay, step 3, providing context. So here is where you want to give the who, what, why, when, and how. So if you imagine you was writing a weekly team update, some things that you might want to tell it is the project overview, and also who your audience are, the goals that you're trying to achieve, the tone of voice, the delivery style. You also may give it more information about the business that you're working for, and just give it the information that you would need to write a great email. Just think, what information would I need? And then give it that information. So context is very important, and this is what really creates that unique touch. It turns from something generic into something unique with context, right? It's a very important step. Okay, Step 4, give examples. So if you imagine you're creating a social media post, if you have examples of previous posts that you have written and you want to imitate the structure, you want to imitate that tone of voice, you want to imitate the use of language, then you can upload those examples before you ask for your response. And this just gives it that touch that sounds more like you. It has your voice. And if you want to replicate your voice across all of the content that you're creating, then you should definitely give examples. Okay, step 5, structure and limitations. So you're telling it what you want it to do and what you don't want it to do. You're basically just giving it a lot of clarity and making it easier to understand what you're looking for. So for example, I might tell it I want it to have a really attention grabbing opening, or I want it to have a call to action at the end. And then I'm also telling it what I don't want. That's my limitations. So you could say, all right, I want it to be under 150 words. I don't want it to have any jargon. And I don't want to include any irrelevant hashtags. What you might find, though, is sometimes it doesn't follow your instructions explicitly. So if you notice this, it's very important to repeat the instruction, but try to repeat it in a simple way. So if you have a very long input, it might ignore maybe 1 or 2 lines. So if it ignored 1 or 2 lines, make sure you input that again, but only the relevant lines that it ignored. So it's focusing specifically on what you're trying to change. And that also goes into giving feedback. So after you submit your response, you may notice there's things that you want to change, things that you think could be better. It hasn't quite given you the exact response that you want. So you give it feedback, and the more feedback you give over time within that chat that you're having is going to understand you more, and it's going to improve the responses more and more and more. So I've given 2 examples here of what I produced with a basic prompt versus a detailed prompt using some of the principles that I've given you today. So if I say in my basic prompt, I want to write a LinkedIn post about my promotion. So it's given us a basic generic response. I'm excited to share that I've been promoted at work. I'm grateful for the opportunity and thankful to my team for the support. Looking forward to this next chapter in my career. Hashtag career growth, hashtag promotion. Now, this is fine, but it's not really going to connect very well with your audience, as it is just very generic and it doesn't have that personal touch. So let's have a look at the detailed prompt and how it changes the response. So the detailed prompt says, you are a tech-savvy communication coach who supports women in tech with building their personal brand online. So here we've given it a clear role, especially the fact that it's a communication coach, because your goal is communicating something online and you're trying to build a personal brand online. If that's your goal, then that's what we're telling it we're trying to do. All right, and then we've got the action. Write a LinkedIn post celebrating, right? We haven't just said write a post, we've said we want to celebrate, which is giving it information of the type of tone we're trying to create. Celebrating my recent promotion to senior developer. Here's where the context is coming in. So you're telling it you're becoming a senior developer. You're telling it about your work life. I work in a male dominated team, and this is my first leadership role. I want the tone to be authentic, empowering, and inspiring to other women in tech. Keep it under 120 words, include 2 hashtags, and a short call to action encouraging others to share their wins. So you can see that this is a lot more detailed. It's applying the idea of role, it's applying the idea of context, it's applying the idea of structure and limitations. And what was the output? So the response was, thrilled to share that I've been promoted to senior developer, my first official leadership role in tech. Working in a male dominated space hasn't been easy, but this milestone reminds me that persistence and passion do pay off. To every woman pushing forward in tech, keep growing. Your breakthrough is coming. I'd love to hear about a recent win you're proud of. Drop it below. hashtag women in tech, hashtag level up. So we can clearly see that there's a big difference between these two responses. And I would definitely say this one is definitely going to connect a lot more with your audience on social media. So now I'm going to ask you to try and use the principles that I've just gone over in this presentation. So if you have a ChatGPT account, I want you to quickly log in. If you don't have a ChatGPT account, I want you to quickly create a free one. It's very easy. You can use your Gmail if you have one. And I want you to try and test this out. I firstly want you to do a basic prompt like I did in the previous slide. I did a basic prompt here. Okay, I've given you some examples. So you can say, write something about women in tech or choose a prompt of your choice. Then I want you to start a new chat and do the same thing with a similar prompt, a similar goal, but try to use the steps that I've given you here. So the very important steps is obviously the role, of course, the action and the context. These steps that I would not miss out under any circumstances. Optional is to use examples, and then definitely be sure to give structure, limitations, and feedback after you get your response. Okay. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. So we will wait until 10 past 7. And if you do manage to get any interesting responses, please feel free to submit them into our chat and everyone can kind of share and have a look. All right, let's get started. Any questions about this? If you're struggling with the task, feel free to mention it in the chat. Also, if you forgot the steps, I'm just going to go back to this slide, which highlights each one of the steps to help you remember what you need to do. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. The chat says disabled for me. Okay, no worries. If you put it into the Q&A section, then I can just answer it in there. Okay. Okay, 5 more minutes on this task and we'll be moving on. Okay, 2 more minutes on this task. Okay, if you could finish up where you are with that task, we're going to be moving on to the next section of our workshop. So, next, we're going to be looking at how you can use AI for your personal and your career growth. So, we're going to be looking a little bit deeper into CV building tools for your applicant tracking systems in our next section. You can also use AI for skill development. So, if you've ever used Coursera, they have a number of courses and they've actually implemented a chatbot on those courses where you can ask questions relating to the course content. So the AI system has been trained with the course content. So, like a teacher, you would ask them questions about what you're studying. You can ask the chatbot further questions and ask it to expand on points or elaborate on other things related to the course topic. So that can be super useful. You can also use it for things like meal planning. If you are trying to have a healthier life, you can tell it your goals and it can give you advice on how to improve your meal planning. So there's many applications in your career, your skills, and your work-life balance and well-being. So we're going to be focused on tools that you can use to help you get hired into the right positions that you really want. So we're going to be focusing on Resi today. So Resi is an AI-powered resume builder that optimizes it for applicant tracking systems. So applicant tracking systems are used by lots of large companies to filter through resumes to try to identify the most suitable candidates with the correct skills. Now, it's very important that you're aware of these because some people try to make their CV look, pretty and different from the rest. Sometimes when you do this, you can actually eliminate yourself because the applicant tracking system isn't able to read these resumes sometimes if they're not formatted in the correct way. So it's good to use systems like Resi or even like free LLM systems to give you advice on how to improve the format of your CV to help it to pass the applicant tracking systems. Other tools that you can use to help you get hired is Interview Warm Up by Google and as well, and also Kick Resume. So here I've done a short video recording showing how Resi works. So you can say that you want to have a job tailored resume and then you give information about the role. So let's say you're going for a software engineering role in the property tech industry. You're going to tell it that information. And here you can copy and paste the job description of the role you want to get. And this is just going to make sure that all of the language in your CV is specifically tailored towards this role and the applicant tracking system that this company could potentially be using. Okay. And then from here, you give it further information about your experience, and you can use AI to generate more information as well. So you can generate bullet points. So there's a free version where you're able to create one CV and you get some credits to try it out. If you go to the paid version, then obviously you'll get more credits and you can use more of these features. But even the free version is very good. So here you give it your education. You can enter the skills you possess. And then there's this AI skills explorer where it can help you come up with more skills that are relevant for the role. Obviously, it's important to be honest and not to lie about the skills that you have, but it's good for you to understand what skills they're actually looking for because there might be skills that you have that you haven't included here because you're creating a CV for all like various jobs within the software engineering field, whereas they may be looking for specific skills here. It can help you to produce a professional summary, and it can also help you to produce an AI generated cover letter for this role that is available in the paid version. So once you actually generate your CV, you're able to edit the CV. Is able to look for the keywords and give you ideas of better keywords, and is able to help you to generate more content. And you can also edit things like the color to give it a little bit more style without taking away from the formatting, which is going to help it to pass through that applicant tracking system. So, like I said, there's a free version where you can try it out. You could try it out today for free. If you want to upgrade to the paid version, then you can get unlimited resumes, unlimited cover letters, and also resignation letters if relevant. And that costs $29 a month. So I'm not sure, probably like £25 per month if you're interested in getting the perfect role for what you're trying to achieve. So that is all for today. I'm going to be moving on to the Q&A section. Before we enter the Q&A section, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Mindible. So I co-founded Mindible, as I mentioned previously, and what we do is we offer AI and automation for small and medium-sized companies. We do this through workshops and custom automations. So we do workshops like the one I'm giving you today. We also do custom workshops where we come in, we analyze a business, we figure out where they could be automating, where they could be using AI, and we give a workshop or a training for that team to help teach them and give them the skills to achieve AI and automation in their business for themselves. So we kind of work with you. And then following on from that, we have some mentoring sessions to help you implement it. We also do custom automations for companies. So if they don't have the time or they're not interested in building the automations themselves, we will build that for them. And in order to access these services, we offer a free consultation to every business that's interested. And I know that most of you aren't business owners. I really did want to do this workshop today because obviously I am a woman in tech and I'm very passionate about supporting women in tech. And I think RTC is doing great work for all of the young women who are trying to enter this industry, because, you know, it's not just the men who can do it, we can do it too. We're equally as intelligent and able and capable. So it's very important that you do keep up with the latest technological changes. And obviously the fact that you're here today just reflects that. So if you do have any questions, please let me know. I can see a few here. So someone submitted their detailed prompt. This is like a really good prompt, actually. Wonderful. I like it. Yes, we do type our responses here. Make sure to highlight your research and data science, such as critical thinking, statistical data analysis, Python collaboration, and data visualization. Okay, wonderful. Do you do workshops for those interested in starting their own business? So so we do target towards small and medium-sized enterprises. So we have workshops which are more targeted towards the startup stage, and then we also have businesses. We also have workshops targeted towards businesses who are in the scaling stage. So if you are interested in the workshops we have coming up, we post them on Eventbrite. We're going to be hosting a few this year. We also offer quite a few in partnership with organizations like we're doing today. And if you are interested in learning specifically for your own business, then you can book in a free consultation. Okay. What can I share about my entrepreneurship journey? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my history. So before I started Mindable, I actually ran a tutoring company where I taught mainly GCSE students English, maths, and Spanish. So I was not from a tech background at all, but I did have a business background. I ran that business from 2018 until like early 2023. And I kind of got bored. The business was running fine, like it was ticking over, it was making money. I had a team of tutors, but I was just kind of fed up with it and I didn't want to grow it. I wanted a challenge. I wanted something more interesting than just GCSE maths and English. And then my business partner had also started a business coaching company. And he said, look, I think you'd be a really good addition. I want you to come on board. I want to be partners. Let's do this. So we came together and we wanted to niche down. And he is a software engineer by trade. So he said, look, AI, it's really taking off. It could be a great avenue for our business. And so I did some research and I said, yeah, let's do it. But obviously, being from a non-technical background, I had to do loads and loads of research. And that's where I went and got my certifications from Wharton Business. So I did some training in AI in business, AI in people management, AI in marketing, to help me really understand the ins and outs of artificial intelligence. And then I did my own kind of experimentation with the AI tools out there to keep me up to date. But because I had this educational background, this teaching background, the workshops were a really natural way to go because I'm really used to teaching online and educating people. So that's why I tried to bring, the business side of things and the teaching with the tech to kind of build this business. But entrepreneurship is a big challenge. It's a lot of tasks. Like every day, it's just another task, another task, another task. So it's a big journey. It's a big journey, but I'm really happy. It's honestly the right path for me. It's not the right path for everybody, but it is the right path for me. Do you have any advice on softwares, technology, programming languages people should learn to get into their AI industry? To be honest, there is so many tools out there that you could choose from. You really need to pick where you want to specialize in and then go from there and try to do the research on the tools on the tools that are available according to your speciality and your niche. So if you are interested, obviously, in specializing in the AI industry, what I would definitely recommend is getting some sort of AI certification, which you can add to your CV. So that way, it will be your main focus. So just going for everyone's questions. I've heard some companies filter for ATS generated resumes and cover letters and filter people out for that. Is that common? It's actually a lot more common than a lot of people like to believe, especially if you're going for a larger organization or company. Imagine these large organizations have hundreds of applications every single time they launch a job, and they do not have the manpower, or they're trying to create systems which are automated, right? So this whole idea of automation is filtering into the job application process. So I definitely recommend, if it's a startup, they're probably not using this, but if it's an established organization, I would 100% making sure your CV is filtered for applicant tracking systems. You can even just go on like ChatGPT or Claude and upload your CV as a PDF and ask it for tips on how you can improve it. You don't necessarily have to use tools or like page tools like Resi. You could upload the job description and ask the LLM how to improve your CV for these applicant tracking systems, and you can do that for free. Okay, wonderful. I think that is all of the questions. Can you talk more about where you got your certification from? What was your experience like coming from a non-technical background? Yes. So I went and looked for online courses. So I did all of my AI courses on Coursera, but they were created by Wharton Business School of Pennsylvania. So I obviously chose that one because there's such an accredited organization, university. I felt that would be a good certification to have. So I went and I got 4 certifications from their courses. And to be honest, even though I was non-technical, like I was always very tech savvy with computers. I went to a school that did make sure that I had a good technical background. So it wasn't like a massive jump for me, but there was obviously a lot of keywords. So it was just a studying phase for me. It took me back to school really, where you're making notes, you're memorizing keywords, and they have like questions and projects you have to complete at the end. So it wasn't just like reading, listening, it was actually the active work. But that was very tailored toward more traditional AI systems. So at the time I was learning this, generative AI was a relatively new thing. So there wasn't a lot of education available on generative AI. So with my skills, I also had to do my own learning. It was a lot of learning through like trial and error, and then also using like YouTube and podcasts and social media to find people who were posting about it. And that's why I saw that there was this gap, that there wasn't a lot of information, and that our business could kind of provide that gap by giving this information to people. So overall, I didn't find it too challenging. But it was definitely a studying period. And if you do want to shift into the AI field, you are going to have to go through a studying period to kind of, everyone has to master their craft. It's not just a case of just go on chat GPT and learn. There's so many different applications and tools available. So you're definitely going to want to put your head down for, I would say, at least 3 to 6 months to just learn. And then from there, you can use all of those skills and certifications, try to get some kind of like projects under your belt that you can display to an employer and prove that you are able to, understand AI and implement it at the highest level. Okay. I think that's all of the questions. So after our call, I think you're going to be sent this recording. I've also got a short questionnaire that I'm going to ask Jade to include in the email that you guys get. If you do answer the questionnaire, which is just kind of giving us an overview of how you found the workshop. If you do give us, a great testimonial, we may put it on our social media. And if you do complete it, you will be able to get all of the slides from today. I can send you the slides and you'll be able to access that indefinitely alongside the recording. So I think that's everything from me. I'll pass over to Jade. Thank you so much. I can't hear you, Jade. I think you're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, I am sorry. Thanks, Amber. I definitely picked up some hints, definitely around how to talk to my ChatGPT and give them more detail. I've put a little sticky note here with everything that you've said. So role, action, context, example, structure, and then give feedback. So absolutely love that. So I can see everybody's putting their hearts and clapping there. So I think the sentiment appears to be the same for everyone else. But yeah, Amber, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll catch up this week. Take care and have a lovely evening or rest of your day for everybody who's joined us. Bye.
Bye.